My name is Ed Steckley, and I'm a freelance illustrator living in New York City. I've been at it for close to 30 years. I grew up in Racine, Wisconsin, and have been in New York somewhere around 15 years. I draw for a variety of clients, Mad Magazine, I do children's books, and I do tons of advertising work. I always find I get inspired when I see other artists' studios. An artist's workspace is a small taste of what makes them tick, and I personally get a lot out of seeing what other people surround themselves with in this field. I've seen a lot of studios and have arranged mine to be as functional and inviting as possible, and I thought I'd share it here. With that, enjoy this tour. I would call this part of my studio kind of the mission control area. This is where everything is done for the most part. I have a cool old-fashioned antique drawing table that I just use for sketching on paper, traditional media. I always have a big sketchboard here, and on that drawing board is everything that's done that's not done on here. I do all my inking, all of my light boxing, light tabling, and all my digital computer work on that desk over there. And everything is pulled together by this goofy barber chair that I have, that I got at an antique store years ago. And I really like that I can just swing over to the sketch pad here and just grab a pencil and just start drawing. I do that a lot. So I could sit down in here and I can do some work on the computer here, and if I need to pull up some reference material for some sketching, I can simply move this screen over here and swivel over, and I'm right in front of my sketch pad. I really like that. This is interesting. This little electric pencil sharpener once belonged to cartoonist Rube Goldberg. Rube Goldberg is one of the founding fathers of the National Cartoonist Society, as well as the Society of Illustrators, and it works better than any pencil sharpener I've ever had. I think every artist has to have their own spot that really works for them, and this is mine. To my left here are a bunch of books that I refer to quite a bit. It's books on Norman Rockwell, Alex Ross, Al Hirschfeld, Mort Drucker, and I like to have those around me just for inspiration. A lot of people ask about things I've got hanging up in the studio. This is a illustration on loan from my friend Sam Viviano. Sam Viviano is a master inker, and I really am a big fan of his work. I think he's great. It is on loan, but I have it right above my drawing board so I could maybe absorb some skills through osmosis. I don't think it's working. This is a plaque given to me by the city of Marceline, Missouri. I was a featured speaker at their Disney Toon Fest in 2019. That's a piece of Walt Disney's dreaming tree where he used to sit under when he was a kid. And they give one of these to all their featured speakers over the years. These are two National Cartoonist Society Silver Rubin Awards for Best in Advertising Illustration. Gotten those, pretty proud of that. This needs absolutely no explanation at all, but this might. Right below her is the Tim Rosenthal Award for Volunteerism given to me by the National Cartoonist Society. I do a lot of volunteer work for that organization, and I guess one year they were running out of nominees for it, so they gave it to me. That's pretty cool. One thing I like about my studio is that I have lots of art by other artists. I think every artist studio should have pieces of art that from people that inspire them. I definitely have that. This is not everything I have. This is everything I have framed. So I have a few things yet that I need to get framed and put up. I'm running out of wall space, so I'll have to figure that out. This one on the right, that caricature, is by Steven Silver. He drew that of me probably about 15 years ago now. Steven is the character designer for Kim Possible, Danny Phantom, and if you're in animation, you know who that is. He's great. This is an original Al Jaffe. This is an original Arnold Roth. Over here we just have some great comic strips and cartoons, some original art. Here's a drawing by Ann Telnis from the last election. She drew a bunch of cheese heads. That was fun. Tom Stemmel does magazine cartoons, Micro Topics. This is a fun one that's really unusual. Herman Mejia is a master painter, drawer, painter, does everything better than anybody else. He came over to my house once to kind of show me how to sling watercolor because I wasn't very good at it. And when he was warming up, he looked down at my cat and he just whipped out this quick watercolor sketch of my cat, and it looks just like him. I can't believe it. So I asked if I could have it. He didn't want to at first because it was just a sketch, but I insisted and he let me have it. This is my friend Jason Chatfield. He does a strip called Ginger Megs. He draws all digital, so this is actually a high quality printout, but he signed it anyway. Bless his heart. This is by Lynn Johnston, who I'm a huge fan of. I was always a fan of Lynn's cartooning. Just a strip called For Better or For Worse. She's just a fantastic inker. I always loved her stuff. These are, of course, Mort Walker and Brian Walker. Original Beetle Bailey and a High and Lois. I love these. I love looking at them. These are both by my friend John Hambrock. He does a fantastic strip called The Brilliant Mind of Edison Lee. I make a cameo in that one. And this is by Todd Clark. Todd does a strip called Lola, and he threw me in that. Funny thing, my little niece in St. Louis at the time was reading the Sunday Funnies, and she got to that one, and she looked up at her mom, my sister, and says, "What's Uncle Eddie's last name?" And my sister told her, and realized that I was the butt of the joke in that day's Lola strip. I think that's great. This is an original piece of mad art from my good buddy Tom Richmond from the early 2000s. He actually threw me in there. It's a drawing of me when I was in my 20s. And I'm the little guy in the middle there with the black shirt on, smoking a cigarette. I love that. Just love this one. I've had it for years, and just a great source of inspiration for me. These are two mad panels by the great Paul Coker Jr. These were given to me by Nick Meglin. These are really special to me because I'm a huge fan of Paul Coker, but I was also an enormous fan and a great admirer of Nick Meglin. Luckily, I got to become friends with him. This is my cameo in The Jumble. Jeff Kanorik, who's the cartoonist for The Jumble, if you do puzzles in the paper, he threw me into one, and it's pretty cool. Because he heard about my barber chair over there, so he thought I'd be a fitting entrant into this strip. A couple years after this, I was a guest artist on The Jumble, so I have a long history with that strip. I can't do The Jumble. I'm not smart enough for it, but I'm sure the puzzles worked, and hopefully some people enjoyed it. I just look at the pictures. There's the view from the opposite view of the Wall of Shame. This is just some cool studio stuff I've got. My cousin was Mark Grunwald. He was a big editor, senior editor at Marvel Comics, and he died unexpectedly in the mid-90s. And Stan Lee decided it would be fitting to have his ashes dumped into a run of the feature Squadron Supreme, and that was per Mark's wishes. But Stan also commissioned this poster to be made up, a very limited edition poster, and Mark's ashes were dumped into the blacks in this. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I know, there's ashes in there. You can't see any. In my estimation, there's two types of artists. There's artists that have their work all over the house, where everyone can see, and there's those that don't have any of their artwork up on the wall. And I find that there's very little in between. I'm the latter. This is the only piece of artwork of mine that I have up, but it's because of the subject matter. This is a poster I did a couple years ago for the National Cartoonist Society Medal of Honor presentation. We gave the Medal of Honor to Mort Walker, Arnold Roth, and Al Jaffe. 3 guys who were, titans in the industry. It was really a real honor to do that, and I got them to sign it. So that's pretty cool. Now we're on the other side of my studio here. Here's a bookshelf with some books I use less, some packages with my drawings on them, the Rube Goldberg toys. I did the artwork on the box set for a band called Alphaville. Little caricatures all over this expensive box set, which is pretty cool. And this is basically my oil painting station here. One thing I think is cool is a couple years ago I bought one of these old Craftsman toolboxes. These things are perfect for artists. I don't know why more artists don't get them. All these drawers are like little tiny flat files. If you were to get this at an art store, it would cost way more, because that's what art stores do. This is all some paints, oil painting stuff, paper for the printer, cables. There's storage underneath here, and on top is all my brushes and potions, and I think this is just called schmutz, rags, all ready to go. So whenever I sit down at the easel, I've got everything I need right here in this goofy Craftsman toolkit. I love it. I got into oil painting about 2 years ago, and now it's kind of a hobby. I'm trying to get good at it. Eventually I'll do a demo on oil painting after I get good, so you can expect to see that in about 50 years or so. So this is where I set all that up. Big easel, messy, paint all over the floor. That's great. So just opposite my drawing board is some storage here, all kinds of stuff, and my flat files. So inside the files here, I've got a lot of my old art, mad stuff. This is where I put it all. Pages. I also have a collection of artwork that I have yet to get framed. This is an original Dustin strip by Jeff Parker. This is going to go up on the wall of shame eventually. I love this kind of stuff. I'd rather look at that stuff than all the stuff I've done. This original Ray Alma, to get that framed. This is a bunch of comics by a guy I'm a big fan of named Bob Clark. Drew for Mad for years. This is from a book. This is my very first eBay purchase ever. And I've got, I think, about 15 of these panels that I really don't know what to do with, but I'll do something with them. This is the drawer I have all set out for my next kid's picture book. There's a page that's done, sneak preview, don't tell anybody. And this is all the paper that's going to be the rest of the book. Daunting. No, this is fun. Just a couple comic pages from my good friend Sam Viviano. Just love these. Love this kind of stuff. I think I have to get a bigger place to get all this stuff up on the wall. And this is my last 25 years of drawing. Another thing I've learned as an artist is that you kind of have to divvy up your space given the project you're working on. All of my art and painting and drawing is done over there. All the other stuff, the not fun stuff, is done right here. That is literally the first time I've ever closed and opened that roll top desk. This is where I pay the bills, do my taxes, do any kind of non-art stuff. I just use this desk. There's a computer here at the ready whenever I need it. stamps, envelopes, all that kind of stuff, my stationery, all that stuff is here. And this has made a big difference in my work life. I don't like to use my drawing board for things that aren't drawing. And it seems silly, but it makes a big difference. Plus, when I'm here also, if I'm watching TV up there, I can grab a sketchbook. I always have a little drawing surface here, and I can just sit and doodle in front of the TV. Just to change a pace, just to mix it up. I don't know. Right next to that roll-top desk is the workbench. This is where I cut paper, mix paints, do anything that's really messy. It all gets done here. This table, I can't really get a feel for how big it is, but it's an old architect's desk from somewhere in the mid-1900s. It is a monster. It is huge. I can never lift it. It's got this huge drawer. Yeah, but this is where I keep jars for watercolors, different kinds of washes, tchotchkes. I'm a big Three Stooges fan, so I've got some Three Stooges stuff. Cool Batman. Things like workable fixative. All kinds of supplies are just kept up here. It's just your basic workbench, work area. It's pretty messy and dirty. Not because of me, but because it's, you know, twice as old as I am. This is where a lot of the prep for things I work on are done. For the next book, I'm going to be, in a day or two, I'm just going to be cutting out big pieces of Strathmore board on this with this big heavy-duty ruler and a blade, and you're getting everything all set to go. Yeah, it's a pretty good workspace. Yeah. So on the other side of this, right in the middle of everything, is an old-fashioned drying rack. This is where watercolors go to dry out, inks, anything I'm working on that's wet. It serves dual purpose. It also keeps fresh art away from the cats. That's why there's always an old sketchbook on top of it there, because they would love to jump on that and fall through. That thing's pretty cool. I get a lot of use out of it. Yeah. Well, that was fun. That's the studio. It works. Hope you enjoyed this little tour. Thanks.